Hello,
Today
everybody.
we are going to discuss the end of Steven Universe Future. There's a few things I want to get out of the way first. First off, a disclaimer. From here on out, I will probably be spoiling everything up to the episode Fragments, which at the time of recording this is the most recent episode of Steven Universe Future to air. So,
Also, if we're really strong on our prediction game, we might even be spoiling the rest of the series.
no. I highly doubt that, but if you want to avoid, first off, any spoilers up to Fragments as well,
Onion kills Spinel!
as well as any potential spoilers past that, you've been warned. Anyways, another thing I want to get out of the way before we talk,
Mr. Smiley is Yellow Diamond! Go on.
before we jump into the finale episode titles, is I feel that we should talk about our thoughts on the corruption theory.
Indeed. Do you want to go first, or should we just go at the same time
Yeah,
saying?
you
Okay. I think it is a bad theory, both on the level that I just don't think that within the logistical way that the rules of the show work.
it's not physically possible.
Yeah, I just
like,
don't. I just don't think that the rules of how corruption works and what causes it would even
People are
apply
like,
at this point.
I saw somebody be like, "Oh, this is how Chama will cause his corruption," and it's like, if that was a thing, then Pearl, Spinel, Lapis, all these characters would have been corrupted ages ago.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. You're saying that Steven's problems are worse than theirs, which is not
Yeah,
fair.
people don't suddenly turn into a corrupt gem just from having a very very bad time. It's like a whole thing. So just within this the science of the show,
It doesn't make
It doesn't
sense.
make sense. But more than that, it's just thematically him going to the dark side or whatever you want to call it because he literally physically corrupts is way less interesting than what the show is doing of him corrupting in a more emotional and psychological sense.
Shattering people.
Yes, it just honestly for him, it to turn into a physical issue of corruption instead of the actual character development that's going on would be very dull and kind of disappointing in
Yeah.
comparison.
When there's so much other stuff. Also, I don't get the theory because there's no canon evidence to back it up except one thing on the enemy screen. They're like, "Oh, we don't know what that is, so it's probably Steven." It's like, well, you didn't know what Bluebird was. You didn't know what the cactus Steven was. Y'all need to chill for 2 seconds.
Yeah, obviously, whatever is going to happen, we have to assume, unless it's a red herring, that big monster in the opening scene is gonna be a big deal. It's the only, if I recall correctly, it's the only one of there that's genuinely animated. It has the big little eye flash.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly got a place of honor
We also
aside from
gotta
just being
remember
big.
the pink white diamond. We
Yes.
still gotta think about that. Anyways, do you think we have made our point known that we don't like the theory? Do you want to hop into the titles?
Certainly.
Okay, so Homeworld Bound is the next episode.
Yes.
I have a lot of theories. What are your thoughts?
I mean, let me know if any of this overlaps with what you were going to say, but, clearly from the titles, just on a literal sense, yeah. The boy's going back to Homeworld. We see him getting all
Obviously.
isolated and, set from everybody around him, so he flees there. We see him saying, you can't help me anymore.
Yeah, and then warps off.
And warps off, so clearly going to Homeworld.
I believe
And
even if it's not a Spinel-based episode, we definitely will see Spinel, and if we don't, everyone in the fandom will go feral on
I
the
told Tyler what I think is going to happen. We will see Steven look off to the side. He will say, "Hi, Spinel," and the camera will stay focused on Steven, and then after a few moments he'll say, "Aw, she's waving back at me." And then that will be all that Spinel gets referenced in the entire thing.
I swear to God, if that happens, I will go feral.
So it's very worrying, him going to Homeworld. Just because...
especially saying you guys can't help me anymore. It's like, where are you gonna get help from? The diamonds?
Yeah, because think about the movie where Steven, yeah, he was at Homeworld, but he could not wait to get back home to Earth. Now he feels so lost and defeated and hopeless on Earth that he's running away from Earth back to Homeworld, which is a really big change and very concerning.
People are like, oh, Gahulken is gonna be his trip to Homeworld, cause he corrupted and broke the warp pad, and it's like, have y'all seen the promo? He literally warped away, like, and he's not corrupted.
Yeah.
And a lot of the evidence that people were using, like the audio leaks and stuff, I'm just like making fun of this scary, but like the audio leaks and stuff, and like him holding his hand in his jacket, have all been debunked at this point. So I don't understand the theory. I'm sorry.
It's very strange.
Homeworld Bound.
So
I believe that Pink White Diamond might appear in that episode.
it is. It's very. It's what's amazing is that it's very hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it is. They've done a very good job where usually when you're excited about the big grand finale of something,
Yeah.
it's because, oh, you know what the final conflict is going to be, and you
Yeah.
can't wait to see that final conflict. I don't know what the final conflict is going to be here, but I'm very excited. Like, it's not a situation where it's, I don't know what's going to happen because it's aimless. Like, it's been very well done, very well, executed in every sense. It's just, I'm as unsure about what's going to happen as I'm sure Steven is unsure of himself and everything around him.
Yeah, I feel like Pink White Diamond might appear in that episode. I feel like it will definitely have good diamonds and hopefully spin out. Otherwise, I will go feral.
And also, I feel like I'm very curious to see whether I'm sort of gonna leap on away from Homeworld Bound, but only in the sense that I'm curious as to whether Homeworld is going to be the setting for the majority of what's left.
That's a good question because that was the main setting for the end of the original series.
Yes, and I feel
the whole Diamond Days thing was set. It was first off called Diamond Days and was set in.
And I do think that a lot of people took issue with how abrupt they felt the finale for the original run was, and also that they weren't satisfied with. They thought that the show kind of let White Diamond off a bit too easily.
She's not
morally.
redeemed.
Yes,
people are insane if they think she's been full on redeemed.
Just that the show did not call her out. Like, it just was a bit too forgiving, like, considering the weight of what she did.
That was one of the most horrifying scenes. I mean, Steven shattering Jasper is now up there, but that was a very horrifying scene when she took out his gem.
But if they do stay on Homeworld, I do wonder if Everything's Fine might be a situation where obviously everything won't be fine. The chances of Everything's Fine not being an ironic title, considering how dark and depressing this season has been, feels impossible. But I do wonder if it will be a situation of them almost if Everything's Fine almost maybe being Steven's message back to everybody on Earth about how he's doing on Homeworld.
Oh, yikes.
That might be my guess. And of course, that's a sinister thing because, again, I don't think he actually will be doing fine, but if he is either thinks he's doing fine with the diamonds, that's worrying, or if he's actively knows that he's doing terribly and lies, that's
everybody.
Also very concerning.
When I see the title, everything, I can only think of that one scene at the end of the Rainbow Quartz 2.0 episode where Steven's like, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine. I'm taking all my other responsibilities and combining them into one responsibility. It's brilliant. I'm fine, everything's fine.
Steven's saying everything's fine. No.
I want to see more of Lapis, because of course I want to see more of Lapis, because she's the best character, don't at me, and I would like to see more Lapis fusion. I feel like a Lapis and Peridot fusion would be very interesting, although at this point we all know that's probably not going to happen, because some Crewverse member had to crush everyone's hopes and dreams.
So cruel.
But I feel like it would also be interesting to see Malachite again. Like, I know it probably would not happen, but you never know. Jasper does seem to kind of be on their team now because of this whole Steven situation. So it would be interesting if they were, like, during a big conflict, like there was Alexandrite, and then Lapis and Jasper were like, fine, and fuse into Malachite.
And then Peridot rides around on their giant head into battle. Yes!
I will love that. That would not happen, but I'd be very happy if it did, because we need more Lapis, and honestly, Malachite is, like, my favorite fusion. besides Stevani. Definitely my favorite fusion in general. If you narrow it down to only stable fusions, Stevani is my favorite, but Malachite is a great fusion, and I would like to see more of her.
Sunstone. Clearly the best.
Good ending is just Sunstone.
Yes. Alright.
Sunstone is the answer to every. Oh my god, the answer! Ruby and Sapphire.
Yes! It all makes sense.
Beautiful.
And I do. Still recording?
Yep.
Okay. I do feel like. Yeah, so everything's fine. That's worrying. The next title. It's an interesting case where the next title, I Am My Monster, is way more scary sounding. Clearly an homage to the I Am My Mother thing.
I Am My Mom was the name.
So,
which is clearly what it's a reference to.
Yes. And of course, even though that is on the face of it a more worrying title, I'm hoping that if we are assuming that everything's fine is Steven in denial, then the phrase I am my monster might at least show Steven confronting and admitting things. But the problem is that after the hospital episode, I kind of hoped Steven was maybe going to admit and face his problems in a healthy way.
I feel like his, not his mom, obviously. Connie's mom was on the verge of saying go to therapy because she was like, maybe if you're lacking a support system or if something stressful recently happened. She never finished that thought, so she was probably trying to tell him, get to therapy, boy. You need some serious help. Do it now. But that didn't happen. So.
Yeah. And I do wonder, but of course, Monster, in addition to just, meaning that, the, I
feel like it's a red herring for all the corruption theory believers.
Yes. But the phrase, I am my monster, I mean, just the word monster also does make one think of the giant monster in the intro.
Yes. I feel like that might have...
So it could tie into that. I do actually wonder if there's any chance at all of Steven, Now, we sort of seen stuff like Pearl's gem is like a whole world unto itself inside.
Yeah, that's weird.
So I almost wonder if there's any chance that Steven will actually go on some sort of inner journey into his own gem sort of thing to find closure.
Can he physically
I
do
don't
that?
know, but I do think that could actually be a possible thing, because this whole season's conflict has been very internal for Steven.
He doesn't even grab stuff out of his gem like the other ones. He just a shield will appear, stuff will appear. All of the other...
I know it's a weird situation. I'm not saying it, definitely.
And Lars, I guess. Poor Lars. Lars... is he okay with Steven just randomly jumping out of his
Why wouldn't he be?
Because that's horrible, and I'm sure not comfortable for him. But yeah, he doesn't ever actually reach into his gem. If you look at all the other gems, except for Lapis and Peridot, who doesn't really have any powers except for metal powers. But most of the gems that have physical weapons that aren't directly attached to their body. All of the all of the gems that don't have weapons or powers directly attached to their body, they reach inside their gem and they grab it out. And we saw with Pearl, with all the phone numbers and stuff, she'll reach in and grab a spear from the thing, but it's very confusing because it's Steven doesn't do that.
Exactly. It is, as far as I know,
that was a long explanation to a very short point. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly fine. And again, I have no idea. To a certain degree, a lot of stuff like that can be kind of made up. I always feel like the symbolic and thematic and narrative stuff is more important than the rules, which is why, just going back real quick, why I feel like the biggest point against the corruption theory isn't just the rules, but more just thematically that would be less interesting.
I feel like Ian Jones Cordy trying to explain point of view.
But I do wonder if there is a chance, considering how, internal the struggle has been conflict-wise this season. I mean, every external conflict has actually been very easily dealt with for them. I mean, the whole thing has just been Steven being miserable has been the actual issue this season. So I do feel like if maybe taking that literal and having him face his inner demons, I do almost wonder if that big monster might actually be more a symbolic representation or embodiment
maybe,
of that.
It's a thing where he accidentally created this, because he accidentally created Cactus Steven. We know he can give life to inanimate things. And I'm pretty sure there was a little part during Diamond Days where he gave life to a rock by accident. So we know it's not just living things. Oh god, does that mean he could grow gems?
I mean, presumably the diamonds can do that.
I
I mean,
hate that. But I feel like I was making a point. I feel like he might accidentally create this monster out of something. I don't know.
it's
Maybe
possible.
he'll like accidentally like cry on a worm and then it goes ballistic and rips apart the city. I don't know.
But I mean, that's the thing. That the monster's mysterious, and also the other big mystery is, of course, the pink white diamond.
Yeah.
I
We know she's turned pink before, during I think it was Change Your Mind. I didn't actually watch Diamond Days, so feel free to clock me in the comments if that's wrong. But I'm pretty sure in the episode Change Your Mind, when Steven was like, "You need to chill," and his empathy powers, he seems to be lacking now, which is yikes. He might do something more with that.
Yeah, and I'm really curious, like, because that's it. Steven is very much on a teetering point right now between being the hero that he has been and also falling into a more villainous state,
Yeah, it's
given
very
the crossing of
concerning.
certain lines. So I do
Crossing. Oh,
of certain
you mean
lines.
the fact that in the original series he poofed somebody because she only wanted to shatter people. Now he has shattered somebody.
Yes.
To be fair, she was only dead for like 2 seconds, but still, there was that moment of uncertainty when he was like putting his stuff in the tub when he was holding it and it wasn't doing anything. And even when she was reforming, because it was like it looked kind of weird.
Oh, it was a very tense moment, but
it's a very tense moment.
But it would be. Here's the thing. I'm torn about the possibility of Steven actually going evil by the end.
Yeah.
Like, not just like, what he has done, which has already been huge, but like genuinely, like, bad through.
Circling back to Everything's Fine, there was that clip in the promo where he was like, I'm not bad. I don't hurt people. I help them.
Which seems just
which
like plain lying in the wake of what happened. So,
or him being delusional. He seems like he kind of bullied you, which is also concerning.
So, so I'm torn because on the one hand, Steven actually turning evil or something like that seems like it would be like such a cynical.
This is a kids show.
Yes, like that seems like it would be such a cynical and pessimistic thing for the show to do, given how generally hopeful and loving and generous of spirit it is. However,
that would be a bold move.
It would be. So
part.
Again, to be clear, I don't think it's likely, but I just thinking.
This is our theory video, so don't yell at us. In the
exactly,
comments, please.
I do feel like it is unlikely for it to end on any note like that. But I do feel it's possible, even if it doesn't end on that it does toy with that being a very real possibility. And either way, it occurs to me that it's interesting that this show has had so many cases of a villain turning good. That has happened a lot.
It hasn't always happened. Like, there's always, like, people like Bluebird, who they just, like, yeeted off.
Yes, but the thing is, the show, there are lots of examples, and a recurring thing is that even Bluebird's case, like, I seem to recall they said that anybody can change, just some people don't want to, So a big thing of the show is that any person, no matter how awful...
I can make a change.
Any person, no matter how awful, can choose to be better. So it might almost be actually kind of, like, bittersweet bit of realness and symmetry of the show to also admit that somebody who thinks of themselves as good and has done a lot of good can sometimes fall into a situation where they let themselves do bad bit by bit until they have lost the version of themselves that they once were.
Little blackbird builds a nest.
So again, I do want to reiterate, I don't think that the most likely way for the show to go is Steven to just turn into some supervillain. I just do think that
as of now, he's kind of on that track.
Exactly. I'm just saying that seems like a way more real possibility than it did even earlier in the season, let alone before the season. And I do think that it actually could be an interesting thing to show from both sides, just how you are the person you choose to be.
or in his case, he is becoming a monster. He's becoming a conflict for, I'm guessing, for the last 4 episodes. Let's talk about his powers for a second before we circle back to that, because I want to talk a little bit about his powers, his Super Saiyan epic powers, and how that might tie into the ending. Because we've definitely seen that there's going to be some conflict, obviously, with him being a little crazy. And I want to try to talk about how his powers might tie into it. Because they've introduced all these powers that he did not have before, like his weird growing thing, his super speed that doesn't last that long but still exists. Which I'm kind of sad that wasn't a Smoky Quartz exclusive power, because that would have been cool. But you know, he can basically fly now. He has these weird like shield wall things.
I mean, the dude's powering up a lot.
Yeah.
Which is why it's just a real shame that the whole him getting way more powerful thing is happening at the same time of him getting way less trustworthy. And good.
He's getting powerful and also becoming evil, so that's super great.
But another, to sort of, to almost kind of counter my own point, I also do want to remind everybody that Steven Universe is based on Steven Sugar, Rebecca's brother.
Oh,
and
God.
I do think that unless the two of them had a huge falling out, I do think it would be genuinely very weird for...
Insulting to Steven.
Yes. Not that I'm saying that, like, that would hold her back creatively and she wouldn't be willing to do that, do something interesting dramatically just because of who the character is based on. But I do also just think that is maybe more reason as well to think that Steven, will find his way through this.
I mean, unless her brother randomly became a murderer and we are just unaware, I don't think that's...
Yeah, but all this is...
Because even, like, after he shattered Jasper, he was like, oh, crap, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to make light of the fact that, he murdered Jasper. But, I mean, it is also, the context of it was certainly far different from him, like, murdering somebody in cold blood or anything. So...
I'm just checking to make sure it's still recording. Yep.
Yeah, so it's just... There's again, all these conflicting things is just to say that the show has introduced a lot to think about, and also it's done a fantastic job of making everybody super engaged and excited to see what happens next while having very little idea of what is going to happen
next.
Also,
a lot of the monsters and conflicts that have popped up in the show haven't actually been resolved. Like, Bluebird just left. Like, that wasn't resolved. Cactus Steven just, like, walked off. There actually was a press photo that had, like, these weird grass Stevens. Everyone thought it was going to be in fragments because there was an article about fragments. Obviously, that didn't happen, but there is a press photo of, like, these weird grass Stevens with the fancy hair attacking Garnett.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and, like, a weird-looking action sequence. So there's always the Cactus Steven. Watermelon Stevens are still a weird cult thing out on Mask Island. There's just lots of conflicts, like, and we know that the conflicts come back because Jasper came back, and she was on the enemy screen. The Lapises, specifically the curly-haired one that didn't come to Little Home School. Like, there's so many conflicts that haven't actually been resolved.
Yep, and it's just, and that's the thing, like, it's hard to say whether they will cram in a lot of this or whether part of the show ending is just us having to accept that there won't be resolution on everything. I mean, we'll see.
Onion, though, has not aged. Also, we don't know what he is, because he's not human. I think we can all agree Onion and Yellowtail are not human.
They're ocean people.
I hate that. Onions. That was horrifying. I like how, like, they, in Raising Barn, we're going back to the original series and completely off track, but I like how they were like, what if Onion had a produce stand while they're trying to find Pumpkin?
It was perfection.
Anyways, but circling back to the actual point, I don't know how we got onto the topic of onions, produce sales.
But it's still important, still very
Yes.
important to tackle. And all right, so I feel like we should move on to just sort of closing things out by talking a bit about the future.
Which is the most vague title.
It
Because out of all of
is.
the other ones, you can have some sort of theory. That one's just like.
And it's a question, the two ways that immediately spring to mind for how to take that title is A, it just ending on a note that will give us an idea of characters looking to the future, whatever that means. That could be the ending of almost anything ever, though.
Or maybe,
and maybe
just,
that's all there is to it.
Concluding everything.
Yeah, but it also occurs to me that maybe we'll have another time jump.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
We might, though.
What would adult Steven even look like? I mean, we have an idea based on what he looked like when he shattered Jasper. And also based on the Too Many Birthdays episode, but it's terrifying. And
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I do feel like it's possible because that is, even if it's just like for a part of it, I do think that there is a chance because the history of the show stretches back.
The whole marriage thing was never fixed. With a 16-year-old proposing to Connie.
Oh yes. There's a lot of stuff going on.
There's lots of stuff I need explanations for.
Also,
is Spinella okay? Because according to all the fan content, she's being tortured, and I hope that's not true.
Also, I know this is a morbid thing, but the show's clearly shown that it's fine being morbid, so I'm going to bring this up.
He murdered somebody.
So has it been clarified if when Steven, being at least part human, is presumably capable of passing away? And
presumably, but based on the Too Many Birthdays episode, he could die of age if he felt old, but also if he feels younger, he won't age. I feel like that was established for a reason, like a gun or whatever. What is it called? The gun theory? If there's a gun.
Oh, Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, got it.
Yes. And
if there's a gun introduced, for y'all who don't know, if there's a gun introduced, something's gonna go off by the end of the movie. That's
there's
what the theory is, right?
Yeah, that eventually there will be a payoff of details that have been brought up, like
Peridot fusing. I'm not salty.
But I feel like there are two different things that, if we consider that the show's history stretches back thousands and thousands of years, there are two questions that, if you think about that,
yeah, it's so okay.
If you think about that scope of time, that leads to me having to wonder about two things.
What?
A, if Steven, due to the weird nature of his aging, is functionally kind of immortal, that leads to a question of, what happens...
Is Lars immortal?
I don't know.
I would have to presume so, or at least until Steven were to die, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, him, and I guess also Lion...
So I just
still
feel
can't get over the fact that Lion's just a deceased corpse.
Yeah. So I just feel like it leads to a lot of questions, if Steven, and this, I know this is morbid, maybe overthinking, but just bear with me here, because if Steven is functionally immortal, then that means that he would keep on living while his human friends age and eventually pass away.
Horrible.
Unless, and
maybe don't marry Connie.
And here's something also horrible. What if he uses his power to make them immortal? But that opens up a whole other can of worms, you see?
Yeah!
So this is all problematic, crazy stuff that...
Also, if he dies, will Lars and Lion die as well?
I don't know. So
there's so many
there's a lot of... Exactly, that's the thing. But also, I could also see it about, the whole idea of Steven even being made in the first place, is because Pink Diamond is all, sentimental about all humans, and they age and they grow, and they eventually pass away. So I could also see it being planned by Pink Diamond when she set all this in motion, that Steven would not last forever. And if Steven... So, if that is the case, then what happens after Steven dies? Is Pink Diamond back?
Yikes, wait. That's a whole thing.
So, again, I know...
mean, she basically is. Look at his eyes.
I know. But just, that's the thing. And I'm not saying that the show is going to tackle all of this, even any of this, but it just, with it being the future...
I want Malachite to refuse, and I want it to work.
There
Not
you go.
as, a relationship, but I want to see Malachite again. Malachite was, I'll go on record of saying is one of my favorite character designs in the whole show. Definitely my favorite fusion design.
And but also, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I I want to see a lot of stuff happen,
Yeah.
but
But there's only 4 episodes.
exactly. And on the one hand, you'd be like, oh, 4 whole episodes, but at the same time, like
Girl, like, each of them are like 12 minutes long.
each of them is 12 minutes. And how long was the movie in comparison?
An hour and 25.
Yeah, so this is
minutes.
even all these combined, this is drastically shorter than the movie.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We're gonna have to
Well,
see.
the movie also only took place over 2 or like 1 day and 1 night, I guess, and then like the next day after.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's just so many things to wonder and tackle about. But I do feel like the the two biggest conflicts that need resolution at this point are Steven versus himself,
yeah.
and another aspect, and the other one that is very much tied into that is Steven versus Pink Diamond.
Yeah.
Because her legacy has been weighing on him in enormous ways
The saddest
in every
thing
sense.
in the original series, there was Lion 4, I think it was like alternate ending or something, where he found a tape that would have been if he was a girl. It was from Nora. And when he went on this big adventure to find it because he had a key, and he's like, this key's gonna lead me to my destiny. And Lion takes him out into the desert, and he opens it, and it's a dump site that was roses. And then the most heartbreaking thing, he says, this isn't my legacy, this is just a bunch of trash that Mom left behind. Which is like, yeah, Steven, you make a connection. So that was heartbreaking, and I feel like that might his legacy is.
But I do feel like there needs to be a true reckoning with Pink Diamond, and also just how gone she truly is. Because again, if she is Steven forever? Like, was the idea when Pink Diamond did this that she would be gone forever and permanently replaced by Steven?
Well, if she was back, that would open another can of worms. Like, how would Pearl feel about that? How would Greg feel about that?
Or is the fight even? And who knows? A conflict.
Would Garnett unfuse again?
A possible conflict could. Oh God. Oh.
What?
Oh.
What did I do?
No, I just thought of something.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Again, this in some ways might undermine the psychological stuff, but it just occurred to me, and I think it's a fun idea to bring up as a possibility. Maybe an additional part of why Steven's been going kind of wild and also
sicko mode,
and getting these huge boosts in power and just turning pink and like getting the diamond eyes and everything. Maybe now that Steven fixed all her messes, Pink Diamond wants to get back.
I don't think that's physically possible.
Who knows?
That's a good point. That's concerning.
Maybe because that's thing, Pink Diamond. It's hard to know.
It would explain the diamond eyes and like a weird pink powers and stuff. It would explain a fair bit because in volleyball, Pink Pearl said she had a scream that could crack the walls, which is one of Steven's new weird powers. So there might be something to that. I hope not, because I kind of like the fact that it's just like him and not some weird.
Exactly. Again, I'm not. But I do just think it is, interesting to wonder, with what we know about Pink Diamond, does it really seem like she would be willing to permanently sacrifice herself? Or does it seem more likely that she wanted to sort of duck out and be able to tag back in when she wanted to?
That's concerning. How does Lapis feel about Steven being a diamond? Because we know her opinions on the diamonds are not the greatest.
Yes.
She doesn't like Blue Diamond, and if I'm correct, she was a Blue Diamond gem. She doesn't like yellow.
I think most people have been very willing to judge Steven on the merit of his own character.
Yeah. I feel like Lapis goes like a one exception where she might be like a bit more hesitant.
Yeah, but...
Or if she even knows?
I'm sure she knows by this point, but yeah.
I would hope so. Otherwise, come on, girl, you've been missing out. Come on now.
But yeah, it's just... So, I mean, that's the thing. There's many ways they can go, and I just do... Again,
corruption theory is stupid.
And I do think it's way less interesting than the many other directions you could go.
Yeah.
I do think that, like I said, if they were going to have it be that it's just not purely psychological, and there is some other force at work that has sort of been tearing Steven down alongside his own issues, I do think it being a literal sense of Pink Diamond trying to maybe reemerge or rewrite back over him or something like that, could actually be
I
an
don't think that's
interesting
physically
way.
possible. Well, actually, I was about to make a point, gonna kind of self-contradicting itself, because when White Diamond pulled out his gem, it turned into a pink version of Steven. But then before it got, it went, and it was like, while it was forming, it went Pink Diamond Rose and then Steven. So I was about to say, well, God, would it make sense? Because his gem half is Steven, but it's like, I mean, is it though?
And it's also just like, I do feel like in many ways, an actual genuine confrontation, be it, you know, a conflict or just a more gentle form of confrontation between Steven and Pink Diamond has been coming, because that's sort of been what the whole thing has been in many ways, so I do feel, and I feel like the sci-fi nature of the show and all its crazy rules does mean that it could be
well,
doable
we did get
in
pretty
some
close,
sense.
because the storming room, Steven went into Rose's room, and
yeah, I do remember that
kind of had
thing.
this weird whole conversation with this version of Rose.
Yeah.
Which I feel like might have been another one of whatever gun theory is called, where if you put his gun down, it might shoot.
Because, yeah, I'm not saying who knows, but,
I Am My Monster is completely a Malachite-based episode.
There
I would be
you
very
go.
happy, but, like, I know it's not, obviously, but I would like that.
How hilarious would it be if one of these was just like a random filler episode?
Oh no! I Am My Monster is just another Onion.
It's a Ronaldo episode.
It's a Ronaldo. No! It's another Ronaldo documentary.
I am my monster. It's just
Ronaldo
God, being all melodramatic.
Steven, did you see this weird ship of these diamonds came from the sky and they took Spinel? What about the injector? Guys, I'm about to try to cancel crystal gems again. We're gonna break into little homeworld.
Dear God. Dear God.
God is horrible. I sincerely hope not.
I'm sure not, but it would be hilarious and so
Steven!
wonderfully infuriating if we got a Ronaldo filler episode when they only had 4 left ever.
Steven!
And right when the momentum is building towards the big grand finale.
I would go feral. Spinel needs some sort of comeback, because all we've gotten is an injector in the background and a brief mention in a Peridot episode. So I want something. I just want closure. Is Spinel okay? Like, what's that whole situation?
What's going on?
Because, like, they made a whole movie. Yeah, let's be honest, it wasn't a Steven Universe movie. It was a Spinel movie.
It was a Spinel movie.
So, like, if we don't really do much with her except, like, a brief mention, I will be very upset.
I would be let down as well, but we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think the corruption theory is likely, and frankly, I would be disappointed if it was. But I feel like we've,
Steven and Connie fuse into Stevani and go off to college. That's the big end.
There you go.
It all works out if you just put your mind to it. No.
Dun-dun-dun. But, so I mean, that's it. Like, I think it's clear that, neither of us are really coming at this from a position of, here's what we truly, truly think will happen.
Yeah, corruption theorists.
Dun dun dun.
Take that.
Because I think it's part of the fun of this, going to this, is that it really, and they've been very secretive with the promo. Like, the promo has given very little away as to what the nature of this big grand finale will be.
It's given away a fair bit of Homeworld bound stuff. Like, you guys can't help me anymore, and he eats off. But then, like, a lot of the promo was just showing
old stuff. Yes.
Yeah, showing stuff from the original.
So they're clearly being secretive for a reason. They're, playing the cards very close. And
oh God, if Pink Diamond does come back, there was like one quote in Mr. Universe where he's like, I spent so long wondering whether or not I'm my mom, and now that I know I'm not, I don't know who I am either. And it's like, oh,
yeah. So we'll see, but there's many interesting directions they can go, and I'm very much looking forward to finding out.
Yes. Farewell.
Farewell.
Everybody. Goodbye.